Throughout human history, one thing has been a constant: crime. There are many types of crimes committed and many types of investigators who look into them. Criminals get very creative to stay ahead of the law. Find out crime doesn't pay. Join Jason Esty as he dissects various crimes, mysteries, and disappearances.
Crime Maze.
Hello! Are you ready for an epic live today? Once again on the IDAHO4, my friends. Hello, Christine from Seattle, Washington. Wow, I don't think that's too far away from Idaho. I don't think. Oh, no, that's far away. Yes, I think. Hello. No, Seattle's not that far, is it? Beautiful Seattle. I was there many, many years ago. We're talking IDAHO4, my friends. Who am I? Do you know who I am? It's Jason. Yes, ESTEY'S Crime Maze. And we got Amy Conway, 4549. She loves to razz me that just because I throw in the name Costa Rica at times for the WITSEC program, when I've already specified, no, the WITSEC program, United States have one in Costa Rica. Oh, sorry, in Puerto Rico. But I mentioned Costa Rica, my friends, because anybody who does any research in this case, you realize that the families, and Amy should know too, they love to take trips to Costa Rica. And maybe they'll be going to Puerto Rico as well. And you guys, anybody who watched my videos for the last, I don't know, 7 months to a year, you know that I'm convinced, in my opinion, that the students are alive. There was no crime scene. It's all staged. We're going to get into it today, my friends, if you stay with me. And I told Amy that you can volunteer to get out of the WITSEC program. Again, what is the WITSEC program, folks? That's the Federal Witness Security Program in the United States. Witness protection, baby. They can voluntarily get out. Say if they have a family vacation, they can go over to Costa Rica if they want, if they are indeed in Puerto Rico, which I suspect they are. That being the beautiful, vivacious Kaylee Gonzalez, the beautiful, vivacious Madison Mogan, and I should say they were very intelligent young women too. The beautiful, vivacious, intelligent Xander Canuto, and the stud Ethan Chapman, right, folks? But again, we don't have to, in my opinions, my friends, we absolutely don't have to be sad. And this is not a tragic case like we've been told, my friends. We have been hoodwinked 2 ways to Sunday. Most of us know we've been lied to in this case so many times, right? So why would you believe that even the students are dead? Because there's absolutely no evidence for it, my friends. And we're going to talk about it today. The crime scene tape, that's just nonsense. Excuse me, my friends. I just got the wire caught. So thank you for joining me, everyone. Again, my name is Jason. I go by ESTEY'S Crime Maze here on YouTube. You guys can find me on Facebook as well, at TikTok. Although on Facebook, I have my real name. Authority, folks. I just put a video, by the way, out on Charlie Kirk. Actually on YouTube yesterday. I have ones on Charlie Kirk and the IDAHO4 up on TikTok. I had one go viral on Charlie Kirk, by the way, on TikTok. That's Jason Truth Authority. I'd love for you to follow me there. But Amy, thank you for being here. Yes. Amy says, I live here. I live here in Costa Rica. Yes, once you're out, no protection. Thank you, Amy. Exactly. Amy, I hope you keep your eyes and ears open for Kaylee Gonzalez. And I say this sincerely. I'm not joking around, folks. Kaylee and Maddie, I believe they are frolicking on the beaches, sometimes probably in Costa Rica. Again, Steve G and Christy G, they love to spend their money. They got lots of money. They take vacations at times in Costa Rica, my friends. And in my opinion, they absolutely know that they're lying to the public. They know that Kaylee's alive. They know it was a staged crime scene. They know there's no evidence to show you concretely that the students were killed, stabbed to death, right? Steve G claims his daughter's nose was busted. By who? Who would want to mutilate her beautiful face? That makes no sense. It's one thing to have a hit on you, but they're not going to mutilate these girls' faces, my friends. They don't have time to do that. One or more assailants. Come on. And 50 stab wounds. We're getting different reports. One woman was stabbed 50 times. Kaylee had the most stab wounds. Another woman stabbed 30 times. And, all this highly emotionally charged narrative, my friends, is all part of the Psyop, in my opinion, right? And then we're supposed to believe the stud, Ethan Chapman. The feds did a hideous lie to you on him, too, saying that he was slashed on his legs or some damn thing. My friends, it's all theater. It's all lies. It's all a psyop, psychological operations, baby. And I'm going to hope to prove it to you in this video if you listen to me. Okay, folks? Amy says, after sentencing, show maybe BK on air, Asia. I'm not sure what that means. If anybody knows what she means by that, let me know. So keep the comments and or questions coming, my friends. Tell me what country you're in if you want, okay? As you can see, I have a beautiful home here in the powerful country of Canada. And guess who gave me this beautiful plush couch and the grand piano, particularly the couch? You know who gave it to me? Harsh Reality. That big YouTube star. I think he could use a personal trainer, in my opinion. But Harsh Reality, he's a nice guy. And he's got this massive channel, does hundreds and hundreds of videos on the IDAHO4, just like another YouTuber who I won't even mention his name. You guys know who I probably mean. And these guys keep telling you, seemingly convincing you, that an atrocity happened. They just go along with CIA, FBI, local law enforcement narrative, trying to convince you, oh yeah, here's the reports. So I believe it that all 4 students were stabbed to death because I believe in corporate media and the documents. It's all horseshit, my friends. Harsh Reality needs a wake-up call. And you know what, my friends? Even if Harsh Reality, by the way, he didn't give me this couch. I'm just razzing him. Harsh, I'm joking, dude. You didn't give me this couch. I wish you did. See, my friends, Harsh Reality makes so much money on his YouTube channel. Again, going over and over that an atrocity happened, right? He gets free couches from some of his. Apparently, somebody donated. Gabe bought him a brand new couch. Anyway, a little envious, but that's okay. Now it's my couch. You can see that. I'm just joking. But my friends, guys like Harsh Reality, I think respectfully, we need to expose these people. And I say that because Harsh Reality, my friends, he doesn't do interviews, just like this other YouTuber who has almost 30 or about 30,000 subs. And again, my friends, I won't say who's a misinformation and disinformation agent out there on YouTube on the IDAHO4 case. I'll let you guys make up your minds, but let's be very careful here. There's a lot of at times there's YouTubers hired by the feds at times or influenced by the feds, and they will put out misinformation, disinformation, particularly on the IDAHO4. And then there's just grifters, right? People just wanting to make money. That's their primary motive instead of telling the truth. So I have questions for somebody like IDAHO4. I'll just briefly describe. I have questions about the IDAHO4, yes, but I have questions about Harsh Reality. I'll just briefly say this, my friends, because Harsh Reality, I think he needs to be challenged. Don't you guys think so? Again, he's done hundreds of videos on the IDAHO4, yet doesn't do interviews. I think he needs to be challenged on that. As far as I know, he hardly ever does interviews. And, my friends, he doesn't entertain the idea, doesn't even bring it up as a possibility, a real theory, that the students were extracted by the U.S. Marshals at the cover of darkness, November 12th, that it was pre-planned most likely. They were extracted, and they're protected under the WITSEC program. Have you ever heard Harsh Reality tell you that, my friends? Have you ever heard any massive YouTube channel on the IDAHO4 tell you this? Entertain that possibility and talk about it. And talk about it with other people. No. And you got to ask why, my friends, right? I think those are huge red flags in my opinion. And there's another huge YouTuber that does the same thing. And I've exposed him before. Okay? He's not even worth mentioning at the moment. But we'll do videos on this other person. 6 perhaps in Puerto Rico. Pamela says, oh, and perhaps in Puerto Rico. Yes, Pamela. Even though the WITSEC program, the Federal Witness Security Program, apparently they do not have infrastructure necessarily in Puerto Rico. But if those 4 students, I would guess they're probably in, sorry, if, let me repeat, let me repeat myself. Pamela, yes, the 4 people, if I were to guess where they are, the 4 young, beautiful students of the IDAHO4, they're probably in Puerto Rico because they have a WITSEC program. If they're not there, I would guess they're in Costa Rica. That's why I'm kind of almost being serious. I hope Amy will keep her eyes and ears open, maybe even ask residents in Costa Rica, have you seen a girl like Kaylee Gonzalez? She probably will have her brown wig half the time, but see if she ever comes across them in Costa Rica or know people that have seen them. Because again, my friends, this is the real reality, I believe, in this case. Wherever those 4 students are, they are alive. They're not dead. They weren't stabbed. Again, we didn't have any open public casket ceremony that people will say, well, it's because, Jason, they were stabbed. They were mutilated, right? You can't have an open casket if they're mutilated. Do you really believe that, my friends, when you really use reason, logic, common sense? Do you really believe this highly emotionally charged and I believe false narrative put out by FBI, CIA, some of local law enforcement, the feds? Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that assailants would hate these girls so much they would actually, and be able to do it in enough time, by the way, in 8 to 12 minutes or less, to mutilate their faces? It's one thing to kill them. So you're going to mutilate their faces. My friends, this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. Even some evil cartel members, I don't think, would do that. Not in a case like this, my friends, right? They're going to go for organs to try to kill them. I mean, this is ridiculous. But this is what we've been fed eventually, right, everyone? I think they took about a year or so at least before they were trying to feed us. Oh, the faces have been mutilated. Then you have the coroner. Some people will say, rightly so, they'll say, well, the coroner spoke out. She's saying that they were killed and saying that she claims that Maddie, fought, or no, Xana was fighting, very odd statements for a coroner to make, by the way, right? But again, I think a lot of you would agree the coroner is probably all in on this cover up and lie, my friends. This hideous cover up and hideous lie, this hideous psyop, because that's what it is, my friends. In my opinion, I think her name is Kathy Mabbitt, isn't it? She's just bought in. I mean, the feds are, I almost feel sorry for her. The feds are probably for sure controlling her and telling her to put out this nonsense and lies, in my opinion. And that's very easy, right? So we can't trust anybody in this case, hardly, my friends, right? Certainly not the coroner, not the feds. And again, my friends, I give the feds credit. I think somebody had it out for these girls, most likely, and maybe just Ethan by association, right, everyone? Somebody in one way or another was targeting these girls, and I believe at least one or more of the girls was probably a confidential informant. I'm not the only one to bring this up, most likely, right? And simply put, my friends, one or more of the girls were compromised. And if one girl's compromised, some of the other girls are going to be compromised potentially, right, everyone? And then you had Dylan. Yes, you had Dylan Dylan and Bethany. They were untouched. The feds, apparently, they didn't need to extract those 2, right? And that would be reason, logic, common sense, I think we can infer, because they weren't targeted in any way. They probably were not working with the feds. They weren't working in any dangerous drug investigations. And I think reason, logic, common sense, again, my friends, it's speculation, but I think we can infer that some of those girls, probably Maddie and or Kaylee, were working with the feds with the drug investigation, maybe Xana as well. But we may never get the answer on that. But certainly, my friends, it was a staged crime scene, in my opinion. We're going to get into that. Yes, April said Ethan's family had a private service with an open casket. Aha, private service. Supposedly an open casket. That's what we've been told. But again, my friends, and thank you for that, April. As I've said in many of my videos, my friends, here's a fact. When you have an extraction operation, and I add an extraction removal operation, when the feds, whether it be military, right, whether it be in this case, I believe the U.S. Marshals, when they go and do a secret covert operation and extract it, whether it be a government official, somebody that's valuable to law enforcement, and I believe those 4 students or some of them were valuable law enforcement assets, my friends, clearly, okay? Because they're extracted. We don't see them, and they were not killed. But when you have an extraction removal operation, my friends, such as this, you are never, ever going to have an open public casket ceremony, right? You're just not, because you can't exhume the bodies because the people aren't dead, right? If the government, and they can legally do all this, my friends, they can literally legally stage a violent event if a confidential informant's been compromised. I keep saying this, my friends, and I'm going to keep repeating it, right? It's USC Code 31 WITSEC, baby. And legally, the feds can do anything under that. They can kill certain people. They can delete you. They can fake, again, a whole crime scene, my friends, and then fake deaths. They can legally do this. And then they can actually, we saw in the IDAHO4, my friends, they can seal documents and redact documents. They can do anything. And they can use prosecutorial discretion under all this. So the prosecution at times is in on this, the whole state. This is the IDAHO4 in a nutshell, isn't it? I'll ask you guys and gals. And again, we can respectfully disagree. If you're still convinced, even after this video is over, my friends, if you're still convinced those students were actually stabbed to death like we've been told, I don't know what else to say, because we're going to go over a list too, my friends, of the anomalies. And I'm going to go over the list of that there's no proof that a crime even took place, my friends. And again, I don't have all the answers, my friends. I didn't come up with this theory from day one. Like a lot of you that believe, some of you that believe that those murders took place, and there's many that do, right? I bought into that too, my friends. I bought into the Psyop for about at least a year. But then once you start connecting the dots, my friends, and you look at USC Code 31 WITSEC program, all of it, my friends, you realize, well, wait, and you look, wait, is there any concrete evidence that those students were killed? And the answer is no. We're going to get into it, my friends. Robin says, yeah, she said everyone was sleeping and in their beds at first. Thank you, Robin. April says, I think they have made it impossible for anyone to ever know the actual truth. Well, we can get close. We can get a lot closer, and we are. Mabbott is a 16-year-old paid puppet. 16. She's not 16 years old, though. Mabbott is like in her 70s, isn't she? That's hilarious. That's funny. Thank you for being here, Robin. Robin is the co-producer, by the way. The beautiful Robin is the co-producer over at Devil's Advocates YouTube channel, my friends. Again, all true crime, baby. So all of you, if you haven't been on Devil's Advocate show or checked him out with our amazing guests, please go over there. Not now. Not now. Wait till this live's over. And you can actually join us tonight, my friends, at 9 p.m. I'm hoping to be there again. I'm honored and privileged to be one of the guests on the show these days now. And I'm honored working with these guests, and Robin, of course, as well. And I think it's the most entertaining and valuable true crime channel out there, my friends. I really do. I think it's the best. But you guys can make up your mind. Please check us out and subscribe. Follow Lee. Give us Robin and Lee support. Yeah, there were reports that somebody says there were reports that Ethan was cremated. No, those would be false reports, Pamela, or maybe that's so. But I thought we were told many times, and I believe Ethan's family came out and claimed that they had a private funeral service for Ethan. And to Pamela's point, though, my friends, guess what? We all know that we were told, we're supposed to believe this, that Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, the two beautiful young women, and the third, the beautiful, vivacious Xander Canoodle, we were told, and we're supposed to believe this, everyone, but you don't have to believe it. It's nonsense, in my opinion. We were told over and over again that they were cremated. Do you really believe that, my friends? Think about it. Do you really believe that all three women were mutilated by either Brian Koberger or Aryan family, Aryan Knights, right? You know, you always got, I'll have to mention his name now, Pavarotti, right? Pavarotti seemingly trying to convince you, video after video, that the Aryan Knights, the Aryan families, they did this atrocity. They stabbed all the girls. And Ethan, do you really believe that? And again, my friends, I'm just asking you the question. One day I hope to have a beer with Pavarotti, Jay Embry. And I've challenged him to a boxing match. And more importantly, my friends, I've challenged him to an interview. And he put conditions on it. He basically almost discounted the interview altogether, even though I'm a smaller channel. You see, my friends, some of these YouTubers, I believe they're afraid clearly of the hard questions. They're afraid they're going to lose a lot of subscribers, apparently, if they have somebody like me on. But hopefully I can convince Jay Embry to change his mind. Okay. He wants me to get over I have to get, I think, 2,500 subs before I can even have a boxing match. Then I have to win the boxing match before I get a chance to interview him. But I'll win the boxing match. And I hope you guys support me, okay? Because Jay Embry, even if you fully believe everything Jay Embry says, my friends, that's fine. I used to believe in this guy too, but please understand that, don't you think he should be doing interviews, right? Same with Harsh Reality. These huge, huge YouTube channels. They've built up their subs. They don't seemingly get censored at all. I think these are huge red flags. I think they should have the show some cojones and courage and really interview people, especially that may have an opposite viewpoint, that are connecting the dots, especially when I show you, my friends, and other people have talked about it. There's no evidence to show a crime scene took place, right? And that the students were most likely extracted. Absolutely they were. April says, something is going on so weird with our justice system, hiding everything in cases, sealing everything. This case now, Charlie Kirk's case, Richard Allen case, it is bizarre. Thank you, April. Brilliant comment. So true. So true. Now, Pamela's on my chat page, and I'm going to read an amazing comment I thought she left. April says, Embry is all ego now. So many spooks online pushing their narrative as directed. April, that's brilliant. You know, not everybody's going to agree with your comment, and that's fine. They can have their own opinions, but I kind of agree with that comment. Let's just put it that way. And I'm going to actually take a picture of your comment. That is brilliant. I'm going to repeat what April said, everyone. You can make up your own minds. Jay Embry is all ego now. So many spooks online pushing their narrative as directed. Again, you can make up your mind if April's correct in that assessment, my friends. Again, we got to ask hard questions. You know, the feds, my friends, in this IDAHO4 case, in this very, very important true crime case, are they not going to put out at times misinformation, disinformation agents? You better believe they are, my friends. You better believe it. And you can make up your mind, my friends, who they may be or are, right? And again, we got to, I think some of those red flags are, my friends, why would you do hundreds and hundreds of videos going solo? And by the way, some of these people, or one person in particular, doesn't even show his eyes. I mean, come on. Is that a Fed move or what? But anyway, these people, my friends, they do hundreds and hundreds of videos. They don't do any interviews other than, Pavarotti did a half-ass one interview as far as I know. I've challenged him to do an interview. I'll be respectful. So we got to ask these questions, my friends. You got to wonder why. Shouldn't they be doing, in my opinion, they should be doing interviews at times. Come on. But there's a reason they don't. And, but I'm not giving up on Jay Embry, and I don't hate the guy. I hope to have a beer with him one day. So all you supporters, you don't have to keep razzing me at times. Oh, how dare you attack Jay Embry? It's not good look on you, Jason. I like Jay Embry as I think as a person in some ways, but we got to ask the hard questions if we really want to be honest, my friends. And again, one of those questions is, why is Jay Embry not doing interviews? He should be, right? Especially, you should be entertaining the idea, believe, of an extraction removal operation. And I'm going to give you an example, my friends, here. In one moment, we're going to talk about the staged crime scene. Real Tia with Christy Marie says, I know who we're interviewing. Who we're interviewing at the interview. Dylan, does anybody doing interviews now? I mean, I'd like to know who we're interviewing at the interview. Dylan, does anybody doing interviews now? I'm not sure how to answer that. But yeah, my friends, Dylan and Bethany, I mean, that's a joke, right, everyone? I think they know that there was no real crime scene that took place, that the students were actually taken out by elements of law enforcement, the U.S. Marshals. They were rescued, my friends. This is why I give the feds credit. They never have to be mad at me, right? They did their job, my friends. This is what they're trained to do at times, folks. Again, we got to keep in mind, my friends, I don't believe Jay Embry has ever told you this, probably, that Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, maybe Xander Canuto as well, and Ethan Chapman even by association. But clearly, my friends, one or more of them were working, I believe, with law enforcement, most likely. Look at all the drug investigations that were going on. So naturally, that yes, their lives could be in danger. They were working with probably very associating themselves at times with very dangerous people, not just the parents. You know, Jay Embry talks about the parents, but so if those children, my friends, the young ones, or if the young adults, the four, if they were, or if they just talk too much, loose lips, right, everyone, particularly if they're a confidential informant, then yeah, that's going to put their lives potentially at risk, my friends. And you better believe the U.S. Marshals would know this, my friends, because again, they had surveillance all around the house. Even Steve G, who I normally don't believe, my friends, right, the father of Kaylee Gonzalez, he even told you this. Okay? So you better believe the U.S. Marshals, I will never believe anymore that they were asleep at the wheel on this, my friends. They would never have allowed a Brian Koberger or one or more Aryan family or Aryan Knights or cartel members to go in, whether it be a knife, a gun. Now, we're told they're stabbed to death. The U.S. Marshals wouldn't allow that, my friends. Absolutely not. You know what they would do? They would do an extraction removal operation. And that's what happened, I believe. And the proof is, my friends, here's the proof. We're never going to see the students, not that kind of proof, and we're not going to see a signature, my friends. Okay? It doesn't work that way, right? The proof is in right in front of you, my friends, that it was a staged crime scene. Did we, for example, my friends, and I keep repeating this, I said this on Devil's Advocate show, did we see any body bags? Did we see one or more body bags that came out of the house? The answer is no. Absolutely no, we did not. And you know, my friends, when you use reason, logic, common sense, if you had a quadruple homicide, right, you would see body bags. We would have got mainstream media coverage on that and or leaked photos. Absolutely, right? Mainstream media definitely would have got those photos. Okay? This is just a reality. There was nothing, my friends. No verification of the removal of those bodies. Number one. Now I'm going to go over a whole list here, my friends. Okay? I'm just going to turn on a light too. One sec here. Don't leave, my friends. I'm going to come back and read your comments. Thank you for being here. I hope you'll subscribe to my channel. And I hope, sincerely, everyone, all my YouTubers out there, even if you're fully in on believing everything Jay Embry says, that's okay. But please think about subscribing to my channel. Give me a thumbs up. Helps with the algorithms. Hit that bell icon to be notified for future videos. Feel free to leave me a comment. That also helps with the algorithms, apparently, my friends. Appreciate it. So, Real Tia with Christy Marie says, I would love to interview Dylan and Bethany, but they don't respond back. Wow. I'm glad she communicated with them. I'm on the same page with you and DA. I think somewhere on that night, there had to be extraction. Thank you, Real Tia with Christy Marie, for that comment. I'm glad you're on the same page as me. That's cool. April says, huge drug investigations. A year later, not far from Moscow, the son of a huge cartel leader was arrested. I believe in 2023. I have to double check, but I believe so. So there you go, my friends. Exactly. So by extracting these 4 students, my friends, not only did the feds rescue one or more students that were potentially at harm, right? And by the way, my friends, let's say if the U.S. Marshals knew that Kaylee was the sole target, they're obviously going to rescue Maddie because they're in the same room, plus their girlfriends, and it was probably pre-planned. And Xander Canuto and Ethan Chapman, the U.S. Marshals would have obviously had reasons to believe most likely that they were in danger as well, my friends. Okay? And there could have been other reasons to extract them, just get them the hell out of there. But probably because of danger. Okay? Real Tia with Christy Marie says, wow, typos. You could just call me Krista Marie. Hi, thank you. Krista, I got to take a picture so I remember that for next time. Krista Marie is in the house, folks. Leaving some great comments. Krista Marie says, I've always screaming at the phone when you're talking because you guys convince me there is some extractions. Right on. Pamela, my good friend Pamela says, yes, Xana's mother has never cried in an interview. She just really talked normal. Gonzalez family, strange. In my opinion, I think there's a lot to be said on Pamela's comment, and I've talked about it in my videos, my friends. Do you really believe everything that Steve G and Christy G are telling you about this so-called atrocity to their daughter and the other students? Do you really believe them? Why aren't they crying? Why isn't Steve G breaking down when he's just, especially when you're describing your daughter's nose busted and you don't shed a tear? Are you kidding me? I mean, come on, right? And people will say it a million times a day. Everybody grieves differently. We get it. But these guys are off the scale in a strange grieving process if they're really grieving, right, folks? A lot of huge red flags, in my opinion. Okay. I believe Steve G's working for the feds, my friends. A lot of people have said it. He's probably a fed himself. I mean, come on. Even Birdie once said that he's laughing as he said it, that he thinks Steve G looks like a fed and acts like a fed. Birdie, I agree with you. And Birdie, I hope you interview me sometime, dude. Let's see here. And then Pamela says, yes, Xana's mother has never cried in an interview, just really talked normal. Gonzalez family, strange. Yeah, so Pamela's mentioning Xana's mother. I've never seen Xana's mother's interviews. Interesting. Interesting. And here's the proof, my friends. Before we get into, I keep saying we're going to get in the stage crime scene, okay, for a little while. But before we do, here's the tell. The real tell, my friends, verbally, that I believe that the students are alive. That, in other words, they're extracted. Everything is all staged, in other words, my friends. Here's the tell. And guess who told you? I said it in my videos, my friends, and DA might play it. He says he will play it on his channel, and hopefully he will, and we'll pick apart the comment and see what people think. Bubbly Waters was the first to catch it, my friends. Steve G and Christy G did an interview with, I'm pretty sure it was with Chris McDonough, the former homicide investigator, who, by the way, thinks that Brian Koberger did the crime, him and his wife. Ridiculous. But anyway, they're interviewing Steve G and Christy G. And Christy G blurted out, and Bubbly Waters thinks that Christy G obviously didn't mean to say this. And I would agree, right? Because it blows the whole case kind of wide open. But mainstream media, by the way, does not play this clip, by the way, nor does Jay Embry, as far as I know, nor does Harsh Reality. They don't want to go there, my friends. They don't want to tell you this truth, apparently. But Christy G, in an interview, a recent interview a few months ago, my friends, she literally let the cat out of the bag. She said, as she's talking about Maddie, right? And I believe some of the other students, but particularly Maddie, her last sentence, I believe, was, she says, Maddie just bought a new house, as in house. We know the word she was trying to mean, right? House. How, as in house. Maddie just bought a new house. Not that she could have bought a new house if she was still alive. She didn't say that. My friend, she accidentally, I believe, said, Maddie just bought a new house. So Maddie's alive, folks. She's either voluntarily out of a WITSEC program, or she's in a WITSEC program protected by the feds, and you get to buy a new house. And I've researched, my friends, apparently in the WITSEC program, yeah, you can buy yourself a house. Because again, everyone, if I'm correct and all 4 students are alive, protected in the WITSEC program, the Federal Witness Security Program, that being witness protection. Within this infrastructure, everyone, you can live, productive, low profile lives. I stress low profile, because all 4 students, right, especially if their lives are still in danger, which they're probably not, but if they're protecting the WITSEC program, as part of those conditions, you're not going to be in the public's eye, right, folks? By and large, you're not. So we're not going to necessarily see these people, but they can live productive, low profile lives. And as a part of that, you better believe you could buy yourself a house. And why not? Steve G and the parents, my friends, they're getting tons of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And now they've got we just talked about it on DA's show last night, I believe, my friends, and the night before, particularly last night. What is it? Christy G and all the family members. So Christy G, Steve G, I guess Xander Canuto's mother, I believe, and Ethan Chapman's family, they're all suing the feds for $100 million, isn't it, my friends? $100 million. Are you kidding me? Each. It's so ridiculous. My friend Steve G's already collected over $100,000. And I hate to say it, but from a very naive public. They're giving him money. In my opinion, they shouldn't give him a dime, in my opinion, because of his lies, in my opinion. So be very careful, folks, with guys like Steve G. This guy's renovating his home. It's a huge money grab. It's a big scam, in my friends, in my opinion. He's totally piggybacking on this crisis. I kind of feel for him and Christy that they're not going to see their daughter very often. That's for damn sure. Unless they, again, go to places like Costa Rica where they vacation and Kaylee, say, voluntarily gets out of the WITSEC program, or they'll go to Puerto Rico. Keep an eye on those two places, my friends. Just saying, okay? But really, they're collecting a lot of money from the public, my friends, and that's why a lot of people are angry at Steve G and Christy G. I've heard it online, right? They're saying, why are you're getting all this money and asking all this money from the public on the back of your daughter's death? Well, how about if she's alive? That's even worse, right, everyone? So you don't have to be hoodwinked and lied to, my friends. Let's tell the truth of, I believe, this case. April says, I think the feds used Steve G to spread whatever propaganda they wanted. Exactly. I love that. Where's that comment again? Oh, I can't find it now. Ethan's parents' strange behavior. This is Pamela. For not going to trial, etc. Nothing much from Maddie's father. Oh no, the comments keep disappearing here, folks, when I'm trying to go over your amazing comments and questions. Let's see if I can find that. Let's see here. I'm just wondering if their parents are able to know, because I think they could be liabilities. Kaylee had $100,000 in the bank. Who got that? Great comment and question from Krista Marie. Wow. So there you go, my friends. Kaylee had $100,000, and apparently her and Maddie, didn't they share the same bank accounts, my friends? So there's a lot of money involved in this IDAHO4 Psyop, my friends, because it is psychological operations, propaganda. Largely, we've been fed on this case from day one, I believe, my friends, in my opinion. And part of that propaganda, my friends, there wasn't a crime that even took place, in my opinion. And I'm going to try to show you right now. Krista Marie says 100 million. IMAO, are they really suing the feds? Wow, that's right. That's the 100 million each, apparently. We'll talk about it maybe on tonight's show, Krista Marie. Have you been on DA's show? Maybe you've already said you have been. I hope you have been. I hope you like the show. It's the best show in true crime. Dylan's heading journey is up to 118,000. Wow. I think she's saying that Dylan's made $118,000 from the healing journey. See, it's a huge scam on the public, my friends. Please don't buy into it. And if you know anybody that's donated these family members or Dylan Bethany, please give their heads a shake, maybe, right? Tell them, say, ESTEY'S crime maze, he's showing you there, and other people talked about it. It was a staged crime scene. There's actually no concrete evidence to show these students were killed. No body bag seen, no verifiable removal of the bodies. This is all part of my list here, my friends. No leaked autopsy photos. I repeat, my friends, no leaked autopsy photos and no leaked raw crime scene photos of the students dead. Nothing, my friends. This is huge red flags, right? And part of the reason why is we know this. This is why it gets so exasperated, everyone. In almost every high-profile case, and I've said this many times, and I'll keep saying it, in almost every high-profile criminal or true crime case, you are going to get leaked raw crime scene photos, my friends, right? Uncensored photos. You absolutely are, especially the last 10, 15, 20 years in high-profile cases. But nothing of that in the IDAHO4, my friends. And reason, logic, common sense, I think we can infer, because there was no crime. These students were not mutilated. It's not a tragic story. It's only tragic in terms of the hideous lies to us, the public, that we've been fed, shoved down our throats, right? By the likes of, in my opinion, at times, Nancy Grace, Ashley Banfield. I like Nancy Grace for some of her coverage in other cases, but when it comes to the IDAHO4 with a lot of these journalists, my friends, unfortunately, I think at times they sell out, right? Nancy Grace is a very, very smart woman, and I certainly you wouldn't think she would believe that a Brian Kohlberger could do a quadruple unaliving, killings in what 8 to 12 minutes, and he's got no motive. What a Ted Bundy bullshit that we've been fed. It's nonsense. And there was no crime. Nobody killed these students, my friends. There were no body bags. I wish Nancy Grace, Ashley Banfield, or Joel from Surviving the Survivor, and I like Joel. I wish they would tell you the truth. Well, there's no verification of the bodies being removed, right? Joel from Surviving the Survivor, by the way, my friends, he has amazing cops on there, literally, like homicide investigators, and yet they don't even delve into that case to show you there was no verification removal of the bodies, no leaked autopsy photos, no leaked raw crime scene photos. They should be telling you that. Hello? Anyway, in my opinion. Pamela says they were all supposed to have the same bank accounts, which is unusual. Yes, I agree. Thank you, Pamela. So here's just some of the anomalies of this case, my friends. And I think you could a lot of this list can go towards an extraction removal operation, okay? And never mind about Brian Kohlberger. Obviously, he had no motive as well. But I have on my list, no motive, no confession, no murder weapon, no signs of forced entry. But if you're the feds and doing extraction, obviously they're going to go in covertly. But no post-crime scene DNA trail left behind, right? Obviously, whether it be Aryan family, Aryan Knights, or cartel members, they're going to have probably leave DNA all over the place. Well, certainly they would with quadruple unalivings, killings. I don't know why I'm saying unalivings. Oh, by the way, my friends, I had to laugh. I got to give Nancy Grace credit here. I like to razz her at times, and I mentioned her the other night, but to Nancy Grace's credit, my friends, she smashed Joel on his Surviving the Survivor show. She totally exposed Joel, and he deserved it because, in my opinion, because Joel was using the word unaliving to do with the Ellen Greenberg case, a separate case. And Nancy says, "What? Unaliving? What are you talking about?" And she said it's suicide because they were going over one of the forensic examiner reports of suicide. So let's use the right language here for the most part, right, my friends? But again, a lot of YouTubers teach their own. Some people are just more, all they want to do is make money. I'd like to get support and make some money too, but I hope to God I never sell out. And I never will. No biological residue in Brian Kohlberger's car. You've heard that talked about, right, everyone? No uncensored photos, as I've said a million times. No forensic leaks. No raw witness testimony. No pretrial autopsy confirmation. No material crime scene. No pretrial evidence of the bodies, as I said earlier. No verifiable removal of the bodies, as I said earlier. No surveillance footage continuity. I think that's important. And yet the feds, we know, had surveillance all over the neighborhoods and undercover cops everywhere that night, my friends. So how are they going to allow? They're going to allow Aryan Knight family, one or more people, to just sneak in, or a Brian Kohlberger? Makes no sense, in my opinion, my friends. It's not to say that, again, that somebody didn't have a hit potentially on those girls, but the hit would never have been could not have been carried out, my friends, in my opinion. No statecraft death records, no Social Security death index, no death registrations as of 2023 and late 2024 for any or for victims. No post-mortem debt transfer filings. No public tax bereavement status. We're getting in the rabbit hole, my friends. I'm almost finished. There's a taxpayer thing I've got on the list here, but I won't go over that in a form, but none of that. And my friends, finally, as part of this list, and this is just some of it, no blood mentioned on the 911 call, my friends. You got two surviving roommates, right? Dylan, Bethany. You got, what's his name? Who's the guy, the skinny guy that people were speculating was on meth? Oh my God, I can't believe I forget his name. And he was in the house, right, everyone? And he could have been dating Kaylee. Remember, he was that guy that had plastic zip ties on his wrists, probably from Kaylee. I don't know if they were getting it on or what, but what's his name? Oh my God, it's at the tip of my tongue. Anyway, he was in the house, right, my friends, and he claims he's looking at one of the bodies If there was blood everywhere from all 4 victims, which we were told, right, this quadruple brutal uh, killings, they would mention blood on the 911 call. Somebody would have mentioned blood. This is reason, logic, common sense, right, everyone? These are huge, huge red flags when you start analyzing this case, is it not? I think you guys and gals would agree. And there's a reason. There has to be a reason. The reason would be because there was no crime scene, or you would mention blood, in my opinion, right, everyone? The only blood we saw, because the feds had to put one thing in front of your eyes as part of the Psyop, I believe, my friends, right, to influence your perceptions, right, and your behaviors and attitudes. Ultimately, they put that so-called blood on the foundation of the house. That tricked me for about the first year or two, my friends. I bought into the Psyop, right? But trust me, my friends, in my opinion, it most likely forensic investigators under the cover of darkness, they and this was probably pre-planned as well. They put pig's blood or paint on the foundation of the house. And you know why I could prove that in a way, my friends? Because, and this is why I hope forensic investigators, honest ones, will tell you this. I'm sure they would tell you, my friends, if you interviewed them and they were being honest, you would never leave real blood of victims on the foundation of the house day after day after day. You wouldn't do it, right, everyone? You'd clean it up, man. This all goes towards the staged crime scene, in my opinion, everyone. And on we go. As I've said a million times, they didn't treat this house, this place, they did not treat it like a real crime scene at times, my friends. It would have been an absolute health hazard in a way, right? Because you had not only had blood, but without sounding too graphic, but you would have excrement from all 4 victims leaking all over the place, breathing this in when you're coming into the house. So forensic investigators, you better believe, everybody, they would have proper PPE gear every single time they're in the house. But at times, sometimes they did, right? They had the mask, the gloves, the slippers, the, what do you call it? My sister would tell you, the outfit that protects their bodies, the whole thing. But at other times, my friends, they didn't. Sometimes they didn't have slippers or they didn't have masks. Certainly the U.S. Marshals at times, my friends, too, they were traipsing in and out of the house, at times not wearing masks or gloves. And here's part of the staged crime scene, I believe, as well, my friends, shows you. Birdie was the first one, I believe, to talk about this. And he probably got help from one of his researchers on some of this. But on the boxes, as they're moving the shit out, the victims' things out, obviously they had U.S. Marshals in there. First of all, that's unheard of. Isn't it, everyone? You got a supposedly quadruple killing, and you've got U.S. Marshals moving in and moving the boxes out? Doesn't that show a federal operation? And I'll prove it even more that this was a federal operation in my books, my friends. Birdie again showed you on the boxes. It says North American Relocation Services on the boxes. How many of you already knew that or didn't know that? Please put that in the comment, because I'm going to expand on that in a moment. First of all, people will say right away, and rightly so, they might say, well, Jason, so what? North American Relocation Services, okay, it kind of may sound odd, but they're moving the victims' things out, right? They're victims, they've been killed, they're moving their boxes out, their belongings. Okay, fair enough. Well, and by the way, that website though went down. Birdie was trying to verify this. It looks like the website went down within about 24 or 48 hours. Very odd, wouldn't you say? But not only that, my friends, to Birdie's credit, and he claimed that he actually thought of this himself. He said, and this is what again, I would like Birdie to interview me and we could go over this, and I'm giving him credit. Birdie said, I wonder if North American Relocation Services, I wonder if they work with the feds. You know what the answer to that is, everyone? Do you know what the answer is? I bet you know what the answer is. Can anyone write that comment? Did North American Relocation Services that were on the boxes, when they're supposedly moving actual victims' boxes out, because they're moving the belongings for sure out of the house, but do you know what it said on the boxes? And do you know who the parent company is? I don't see. People are busy writing their own comments, which is fine. I can't keep up with you. This is great. I love this engagement, my friends. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your engagement here. Christy Marie says 8 cats, a husband, and 25-year-old. Laugh out loud. Yeah, Kristen Marie says Robin cats. I have 8 cats. So we got cool people, amazing people talking amongst each other, it looks like, on the chat page. That's great as well. Kristen Marie also says, I was watching DA on Birdie and then followed him to his channel, and you're one of the, thank you, Kristen Marie, I appreciate it. You're one of the ones that make me feel validated in my crazy brain warms with IDAHO4. You can usually find me on Dago's panel daily in afternoons. I leave my reality TV bubble where I'm safe. Thank you so much, Kristen Marie. Very interesting comments. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you trying to provide truth and transparency, and they're doing so in the true crime community. Thanks, Kristen Marie. And I'm more than happy to try to validate some of your conclusions of this IDAHO4 case. And thanks for being on the Amazing DA show. Maybe if you wouldn't mind communicating with Dago, I've never reached out to him. If you think maybe I could provide some entertainment value and hopefully some good facts on the IDAHO4, which I think I can, maybe ask Dago if he'd be interested in, I don't know, interviewing me. You know, I've been interviewed by the lovely Ellie Sophia Rossetti. We've done numerous interviews together. I've been interviewed by the late amazing Tommy, oh my God, I forget his last name, on Once Upon a Crime Time, you know, Tommy. So God rest his soul, by the way. So here, let me go back to my statement, friends. You had North American Relocation Services on the boxes. The parent company, because Birdie was wondering, do they work with the feds? The answer is yes, my friends. They work with the feds. It's called SIRVA, S-I-R-V-A. Please never forget this, my friends. Again, Jay Embry, Harsh Reality, even Lana, who I like from Truth and Transparency. She puts out some really good material at times. They never tell you this, apparently, my friends. And you got to ask why. Robin says, SD crime mates, and isn't it crazy that the MPD was the one packing up the boxes and stuff? Exactly, Robin. And what I'm trying to say is the parent company, Birdie found out, is called SIRVA, S-I-R-V-A. Look them up, everyone. Yes, they do regular moves. They remove, as they describe, refrigerators, cooling apparatuses, etc. But when you dig into SIRVA, my friends, they've got a Schedule 48, which allows them to move valuable government assets. Think confidential informants, right? Think government officials that are compromised and are in danger. And on we go, my friends. Doesn't that show it was a federal operation, everyone, right from the get-go? There was no crime, in other words. Yes, the students may have been targeted, but that's why we can't see them. They've been extracted. They were rescued by the U.S. Marshals, and then all these U.S. Marshals come in and they remove the boxes. They got North American Relocation Services. The parent company, as I said, is SIRVA, that's got the Schedule 48, moving valuable government assets. So one or more of the 4 students, or all 4, my friends, they were valuable assets one way or another to the government. So they had to be removed and protected. The U.S. Marshals did their job, my friends. God, I wish more people would tell you this truth about this case. You know, again, we can still agree to disagree. If somehow you want to disagree that somehow you still believe the students were killed, that's fine. But my friends, let's connect the dots. Let's tell the real truth. And we could talk other theories as well all day, but I think this is the real important truth of this case. At least talk about it. These people, again, with huge YouTube channels on the IDAHO4, my friends, and they're making money. A lot of these people, they're making a shitload of money from you, from the public, and yet they're not discussing, well, wait, why the boxes had North American Relocation Services. Again, the parent company is SIRVA, that's got a Schedule 48 that works with law enforcement, removing law enforcement assets. You got Beth, for Bethany, the survivor, so-called survivor, right? The one that didn't need to be extracted, in my view, but she's on the box. The name are on the box, too. Very strange. And again, everyone, they didn't treat it like a health hazard, right? I mean, come on. Any nurse will tell you that. My sister's a frontline nurse. She knows the IDAHO4. She knows how the forensic investigators and law enforcement would have to have always proper PPE gear for going into that crime scene, my friends. It didn't happen at times, right? and they were traipsing in dirt from their boots. I mean, it's just amazing, my friends, the hideous lies we've been fed. And again, my friends, if we don't get to the bottom, the IDAHO4, I believe, if we don't at least entertain the possibility that this was all a psyop, an actual extraction removal operation, if we don't acknowledge that under USC Code 31 WITSEC, the feds can legally stage a violent event, my friends. If we do not acknowledge this in your United States, there's particularly those of you that live in the amazing United States, then guess what? Theoretically, the feds can do more psyops, my friends. They can use CIA again through corporate media. They can set innocent people up potentially for murders that they didn't do. They can use actors like, I believe, a Brian Kohlberger, who I believe was working with the feds. I think clearly, my friends, he was at the very least, he was a confidential informant. But I think he was a government literally agent, my friends. And he was used as the perfect distraction, my friends, right? And not only this, my friends, and Birdie's talked about, and hopefully other people, but if we don't try to dig in and provide truth and transparency on this case, my friends, they can set up, again, innocent people. They can use their DNA, collect DNA illegally, potentially, my friends, whether it be using Othram labs or whatever. And again, my friends, it's all, unfortunately, it's a small group of very evil people out there at times, and they will use these false flag events to try to override our human rights and fundamental freedoms. Right, everyone? Obviously, the bigger event would be like 9/11 back in the day. But even these other events, my friends, the Charlie Kirk one, same thing, right? They want to bring uncertainty, fear, and doubt often. Am I making sense here, my friends, or am I off on too much of a tangent? Krista Marie says, we disagree. Uh-oh. Where did that comment go? I'm looking for it. We disagree respectfully and Planet Earth KS. And Planet Earth KS. What do you mean we disagree respectfully and Planet Earth KS? Kiss? Anyway, thank you, Krista Marie. Jude. Tommy Jude, thank you. That was the first time ever that I forgot Tommy's last name because I'm sort of on a roll on this live. My mind's going a million miles an hour almost. So I'm going to take a deep breath here, my friends. Tommy Jude. He was an amazing person from what I knew, my friends, and especially what people told me. And by the way, I did an interview with him. I got to know him a little bit. To Tommy Jude's credit, my friends, unlike so many other YouTubers, he had the courage and the balls to interview somebody like me, who was showing you, connecting the dots, I believe, that this was most likely an extraction removal operation done by the feds. Most likely the students are indeed alive somewhere, probably like Puerto Rico, even in Labrador. We have a place in Labrador for the WITSEC program, my friends. Yes, witness protection in Canada, folks. But I bet you I would never believe that Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, or Ethan Chapman, or Xander Canuta, these beautiful young university students, I would never, ever believe that they would want to live in the cold land of Labrador in my powerful country, Canada. Rest assured, they're on the beach somewhere, my friends, or close to a beach, I think. So anyway, that's just my opinion. But no, as I was saying, Tommy Jude was the real deal, my friends. He interviewed me. Again, I've challenged and I've been respectful at many times with Jay Embry. Sometimes I've gone overboard. I know he's got so many followers and he's built up almost 30,000 subs, and that's great. But if this guy's got real cojones, and if he really wants to be truthful and honest with you, the public, while he's making some money, then I think he should interview somebody like myself, who's going to ask some hard questions, who's going to listen to Jay Embry when he talks, and the audience will listen to us. We'll bounce ideas off one another, and let's see who's right. Let's see if the audience starts to wonder, has Jay Embry actually, is he misleading us with this atrocity took place? Wait a sec, ESTEY'S Crime Maze is showing you most likely there was no atrocity. There's no evidence to show an atrocity took place. There's more evidence to show it was a staged crime scene. As far as I know, my friends, Pavarotti Jay Embry does not want to go there. He never talks about an actual staged crime scene, especially in regards to North American relocation services on the boxes, that they didn't treat it like a health hazard, forensic investigators at times. There's no evidence. And he doesn't talk about USC Code 31 WITSEC. He did do a video on the WITSEC program, which was kind of interesting, but it doesn't talk about USC code 31 WITSEC, my friends. It misses out on a lot of things on that video. But you can find out USC code 31 WITSEC for yourself, my friends. And I just showed you, if a confidential informant's been compromised, legally the feds can stage a violent event. Why hasn't Pavarotti told you this? Think about that, my friends. But I'm telling you, okay? And I would bring that up, most likely, in an interview with Pavarotti. And we would talk about it. Let's talk about some of these, because, Jay Emery will get into some of the laws and reading documents and all that, and he's good at that. That's great. But that doesn't get you, I don't believe, to the truth of what really happened, my friends. The truth is there was no crime. And this is good news, isn't it, folks? And you can still think, if you think I'm wrong, that's okay. Maybe you can show me where am I way off and I'm wrong on that. Krista Marie, isn't it a cult? Earth isn't a cult, it's a planet of duality, so we can all learn from each other's perspective. Exactly. Thank you, Krista Marie. And so to Jay Embry and all his supporters, even though I razz the guy at times, I challenge him respectfully and firmly. I'd like to see us, two masculine dudes. He's on testosterone replacement, he tells you. Used to do steroids. That's okay, Jay Embry. Stay healthy, dude. I wish you'd stayed natural, but now you're doing TRT. Okay. We'll have that boxing match, hopefully. I'll build up those 2,500 subs that you set this condition on before I even have the boxing match. We'll do it for charity. But really, Jay Embry and I can share different perspectives with our audiences, right? But is he afraid of losing subscribers? Is that why he still refused to interview me? You got to ask why. I mean, come on. So we'll see. You will see. And again, I don't hate Jay Embry. I would love to have a beer with the dude, pick his brain. And I'm sure Jay Embry would talk, him and I would talk a lot about life, not just on the IDAHO4. And yeah. So, I mean, I could say other things about Pavarotti, but it might anger his supporters. So I'm not going to do that. And again, I fully was in support. By the way, everyone, I just want you to be careful. You can support and you can give money to YouTubers, do whatever you want. And some of these YouTubers deserve some sort of support. Okay, I get it. Unless they're misinformation, disinformation agents, hint, hint. But just keep in mind, my friends, the psychology. When you start hard and fast in a belief about something or someone, it's very difficult to turn yourself in another direction. It's very difficult to stop your belief. And it's very difficult to help facilitate somebody to make a change, if that's your start, especially if that's your starting point. Okay, folks, just look no more than the Trump administration. People, rabid supporters of Trump, right? They've started hard and fast in a belief often, and make America great again, the Madison Avenue advertising, all fine and dandy, but so it's very difficult for them to stop their belief, I would argue, right? That's what psychologists show, my friends, psychology. And any information that I give to the people that already are fully in on Pavarotti, and again, I used to be fully in too on Pavarotti, but I connected the dots, my friends. I use reason, logic, common sense. And this is why I want to debate the guy. But it's very difficult, my friends, because if you go hard and fast in a belief about something, again, any information that I will give to you, say about Pav, if you've gone hard and fast on him in believing this guy, then any information I give to you is generally going to make you reconfirm your belief instead of stopping your belief and turning in another direction. Let's share different perspectives. That's why I want to be on a show. I'm not trying to make up your mind, everyone, about whether it be Pavarotti or harsh reality. I'm not trying to make your mind up and to convince you that I'm right and Jay Embry's wrong. That's not my goal, my friends. Not really. My goal is to keep an open mind, my friends. Let's dig at the truth. And let's challenge some of these big YouTubers, hopefully, to start doing real interviews and entertain the idea that I think, for example, there's more evidence to show circumstantially that this was most likely an extraction removal operation. Certainly, the evidence circumstantially shows you it was a staged crime scene. The students couldn't have been killed. No one or more assailants had the time to do it. They would never mutilate these beautiful women's faces, I don't think. Okay? No way. Why would you do that? And Again, my friends, there's no evidence to show it even happened, right? No verification removal of the bodies. These YouTubers do not tell you this, my friends, and they need to start telling you this or be interviewed and have somebody like myself tell you the real truth. No leaked rock crime scene photos of the crime scene, my friends. So all these channels keep telling you over and over again it was atrocity, and they don't have, at least DA, my friends, DA disagrees with me at times, and that's okay. Devil's advocates, Lee, but he has the courage, the cojones, he has the cock swagger, as I keep saying, to interview somebody like me and even have him on his show as a regular. And I will always be thankful for DA for that, even if for some reason I'm never on his show again. But hopefully that's not the case. But I am thankful because DA had the courage for me to do a one-on-one interview with him. He had the courage to come on with Ellie and I that are connecting the dots, showing you it was most like a staged crime scene again. The students are alive. It was an extraction removal operation. And now DA lets me talk about it at times freely on his live. That's the real deal. That's when you can know, my friends, in my opinion, that somebody like Devil's Advocate is authentic. He's not a sellout. He's not trying to hoodwink the public. He will allow open perspectives, like Krista Marie sort of said, right? And different opinions amongst their guests. And Joe and One are doing great work as well on that show, of course, and giving their perspectives and amazing information. And Robin as well. So One says, you had me dying this morning listening to you talk about the training morality in the woods. Who did that? Who did a video this morning, One, with training morality in the woods? Training Murphy in the woods, sorry. Who are you referring to, One? Because I don't think that was me, was it? Are you referring to our show last night? I don't think I talked about Murphy. But thank you for being here, One. Appreciate it. Let's see here. And by the way, everyone, I don't want to sound narcissistic, but if I had made the commitment and had done, was at the IDAHO4 right from the get-go, much like, a Jay Embry, Pavarotti, and Harsh Reality, they were almost covering the IDAHO4, not right from the very, very beginning, but fairly shortly thereafter. And then they start doing hundreds of videos. Well, many people, I'm sure many of you out there as well, and myself, if we started doing hundreds of videos on the IDAHO4, rest assured you'd build a huge community, potentially, and you could build up 20, 30,000 subscribers. I mean, if Pavarotti could do it, I'm sure many people could surpass him. This guy wears glasses. You can't even see his eyes. This is why I want to have another reason why I can't wait to meet Jay Embry one day, Pavarotti respectfully, and meet the guy and have a beer with him, because then I'll get to see Pavarotti's eyes, right? If he wears dark shades when I meet the guy, I'll be taking his glasses off him. Okay? No, just kidding. But anyway, seriously, my friends, we got to be careful, right? Too, because feds, as Joe said, at least Joe said he gives off Fed vibes in Joe's opinion, right? We got to ask, my friends, some of these people wearing glasses. Anyway, I'm razzing you, Jay Embry. If you want to continue to wear glasses, that's your stick, fine. But is there more to that, Jay Embry? Are you the real deal, Pavarotti? I want to find out. I want to get on your show in an interview. I'll be as respectful as I can. I will be, but I will be firm at times. And it'll be two masculine dudes discussing the IDAHO4 and discussing our videos, our perspectives. We'll answer questions and to your audience, or answer their comments and questions, and it'll be fun. But if Jay Embry doesn't do it, my friends, I think you can know why. Right? It would have to be one reason in my books, that he lacks the courage. He knows who I am. And by the way, my friends, we got a great funny baby video of me challenging Jay Embry. I'll just quickly say that what's his name? Oh my God, Outcast. I believe it's Outcast 404. Check him out, everyone. He does amazing videos. He's a great editor. He had me as a baby, literally on screen with Jay Embry, challenging him to an interview. And he had my voice saying things like, Jay Embry, you never talk about any there was no forensic leaks. Where's the raw crime scene photos? Where's the autopsy photos? It was a staged crime scene, Jay Embry. You know, things like that. So you guys might really get a kick out of that. That's on my channel, by the way, as well. And a few other creators has played that video. Okay. So again, my friends, you don't have to be all you amazing Jay Embry supporters and people out there. Please, you don't have to be angry at me. This is a playful challenge overall to Jay Embry for an interview and a boxing match. And we can agree to disagree. And let's see who is if he's the real deal. Is he right? Did an atrocity really take place like we were told by CIA, FBI? You don't think there was a staged crime scene? Really? You don't think that students, one or more, would mention blood all over the place if it was a real, authentic 911 call and a real crime scene? Let's talk about that on the Pavarotti Show, Jay Embry. I'm so psyched just thinking about being on Pavarotti's show for him to finally do a real interview with a real true crime personality that is not selling out. I'm digging in, my friends, with all of you. And I'm showing you that I think it was an extraction removal operation by the U.S. Marshals. USC Code 31 WITSEC, my friends. It's all embedded in law, my friends. The feds can legally stage a violent event, especially if a confidential informant's been compromised. And they use national security, and they got exemptions under the Patriot Act and prosecutorial discretion. Jay Embry has been mum on that. It's time for me to talk about it, I believe, on his show. But you got to allow it, Jay Embry. You just got to allow it, dude, and show some cojones, and let's do an interview. But I'm sorry, my friends. I started talking about Pav. This live was not supposed to be just on Pavarotti, of course. But I think I went over the list. We went over some of the list, everyone, why I think it was an extraction removal operation, using reason, logic, common sense, that the students are, I believe, most likely alive. The whole narrative we've been fed is this highly charged emotional narrative to try to convince you that this atrocity took place. And by the way, everyone, the U.S. Marshals, they were successful, I believe, at doing their job. Not only did they extract all 4 students, and I believe some of them probably were working with, law enforcement. Many people have speculated on that. So therefore, the drug investigations, these covert drug investigations, my friends, into elements of the Aryan family, Aryan Knights at times, cartel members, gangbangers, right? It worked. They were able to do these huge busts, as one of you commented earlier, right? They were able to do this huge bust in Washington State and other drug busts, my friends. So it absolutely worked. It was successful. And what better way, you try to convince the public and some gangbangers out there, look, Brian Koberger, he did this atrocity. All 4 students are killed. And there's even this blood on the foundation of the house. It's all nonsense, in my opinion, my friends. It's all a psyop, psychological operations. And Brian Koberger was, I believe, a Fed himself, used as the perfect actor. And by the way, before we go today, everyone, I want to read an amazing comment, in my opinion, from Pamela. She's a fantastic researcher on the IDAHO4. Are you ready for this, everyone? It has to do with Brian Koberger and Kopacka. Thank you for being here, everyone. I hope you subscribe to my channel again, by the way, and leave a comment. Hit the bell icon. Appreciate it. All that good stuff. Hit the like. Here's a comment by Pamela, everyone. By the way, how's my volume, everyone? Do you like my mouth when it's my nice mouth? Do you like when I'm closer to the mic like this? Or is it just as good this way? Can you tell me? Please, everyone. I will read your comments, especially later if I miss it. Do I sound better this way? Or do I sound just as good this way? I'm more relaxed when my head's a bit up, more neutral. I'm a fitness trainer. I'm all about good posture. But if I have to do this, sometimes I'll do this for you. What sounds better? Let me know, please. Thank you. Now, here's a comment by Pamela, everyone. Do I think BK, and eventually she asked me a question, do I think BK knew Kopacka and that they were working together for law enforcement? ? So I think she meant, when she says I think she means you. Do you think BK knew Kopacka and that they were working together for law enforcement? ? Great question. And I think they were. But Kopacka went more unstable. Not surprised if he spent the summer at Christchurch retreat. Dodgy. I didn't know that. Wow. I wonder if I should be able to mention that hopefully on Devil's Advocate show. That my friend Pamela says Kopacka went more unstable And she says, not surprised if he spent the summer at Christchurch retreat dodgy. I think Pamela's adding a little bit of humor there. But maybe he did. He'd go to Christchurch. That's interesting. By the way, keep remembering things, laugh out loud. Right near the beginning, I saw a post that said that Xana was going to be a witness for the state. Where drugs supplied to university coming from? And knowingly, I wasn't keeping things then, and I never saw it again. I think it was put on Reddit by a poster who sounded quite normal. So if Xana let that out somehow, and Maddie let that out to Adam, was very drunk, they would have to be extracted, wouldn't they? Question mark. I would say yes. And Kaylee and Ethan, because associates, and would know things too. Exactly. I think Pamela's right on point, my friends. I think that's a very good reason for the extraction remove operation in part. Absolutely. Thank you for that comment, Pamela. Told you, my friend, she's a great researcher. We got 28,000 people on my live, my friends. This is a record for any true crime YouTube personality out there. Oh, I thought I saw 3 zeros. It's 28 people. But 28 people, I appreciate each and every one of you. Hopefully, as I do more lives, hopefully I don't get shadow, you know what, BANNED. Hopefully, you know, the intelligent agencies will play me fairly, and you know, we get these videos out, and I need your help, everyone, and support, okay? But each and every one of you on my lives will get more and more people hopefully engaging and coming on my lives if I could do more, and I really appreciate it, okay? So I hope you subscribe to the channel. Anyway, thank you so much. We're going to go soon, but Annie Ruler 69 says, Leslie and I heard Mrs. G said something about MM's new address. Did the FBI put those? Oh, sorry, I lost the last words. Leslie Billy 768 says, Annie Ruler was going to crime. Ken, so excited. Okay. Quite understand that. Annie Ruler. So I guess what I want to leave you with tonight, my friends, we can agree to disagree, but do you believe, you know, the Jay Embrys of the world, the Pavarottis, the harsh realities that they seemingly want to convince you, and they following the FBI, CIA again narrative, because that's the intelligence communities behind this IDAHO4 and the news, right? And journalists and corporate media that are often captured, we know, by the intelligence agency. Do you really believe them that an atrocity took place? Do you really believe it's so tragic and that these students were killed and mutilated? Or do you think it's more likely, and I think we can see it, that it was a staged crime scene right from the get-go, my friends, and I went over it? Do you think that likely, in other words, that these students were extracted by the U.S. Marshals in the cover of darkness, and they are protected in the WITSEC program? And they even might be voluntarily out of the WITSEC program, but they're out of the United States. They're in another country somewhere, and they're receiving a hell of a lot of money from the public right now, be it the parents. And do you think a lot of that money is going to go towards Kaylee Maddie and Xander Canuto and Ethan Chapman, especially if I'm correct, my friends? I think you know the answer. I believe it is. Even Open Minds Perspective, or Open Minds on YouTube, my friends, I'm pretty sure she said that, rest assured, she said, I think in so many words, that I believe a lot of this money is going towards Kaylee. Okay. And that would be Maddie too, I'm sure. So, and again, Christy G, my friends, told you. She said Maddie just bought a new house, as in house. So how can the students be dead if Maddie just bought a new house, my friends? Christy G blurted that out, I'm sure, by an accident. By the way, my friends, as my friend Ellie said in her interview, Ellie thinks that they went like this, cut, and that's why Christy G left the interview. You can see the clips, my friends, and hopefully DA will play that on his show, Devil's Advocates, my friends. Check us out tonight, 9 p.m., would you please? Okay, I got to go, my friends. I got to go for a walk, stretch out my back. I'm still trying to heal this injury. By the way, if I was in a boxing match with Big Jay Embry, he probably would beat me right now, only because I'm injured. I'll be packing on muscle and strength in the next few months because this injury hopefully will be healed a lot more in the next few weeks. I'll start being able to finally train with free weights again. I'll be able to finally hit the punching bag again. I respect that Jay Embry boxes. That's another reason why I want to interview Jay Embry. I think him and I have a few things in common, particularly sports and boxing. I love the fact that he loves sports. So there you go, Jamboree. Instead of always constructively criticizing you, sometimes even very firmly, I'm giving you credit, dude. We both love sports with an almost religious fervor. We love boxing. We box. So, Jamboree, let's hopefully have a boxing match, raise money for charity, talk Idaho 4. Let's talk Idaho 4 together. Get me on your show, Jamboree, and I will be respectful. I'm not going to go on the interview to try to make you out as a liar, to try to make you out as a disinformation, misinformation agent, even though I've had questions about you. I'm going to go in there and let's see who's correct. And I want to hear from you, Jamboree. I'm sure the audience would love to hear from both of us overall. And we can get a lot of views, a lot of engagement, and a lot of truth ultimately on the Idaho 4. And I'll bring my perspective and let's hear your perspective again, Jamboree. Okay, let's do it. Anyway, just a thought there, my friends. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. This Idaho 4, and I believe I'd say it on Jamboree show too, my friends. I think it was an extraction removal operation and a Psyop, baby. Psychological operation, Psyop. Obviously, we saw corporate media trying to target, the public and individuals and organizations, particularly the public, to influence our perceptions, right? Our behaviors and attitudes at times in this case. And that's what a Psyop largely is, my friends. And I'll talk more about a Psyop in the near future, okay? Because I've done a lot of it on videos and we're going to do it again. All right. And hopefully I can interview somebody like a Joe or Devil's Advocates and we'll talk Psyop too, because they did an interview taking my lead on what a Psyop is, I believe, and they did a great job. Thanks, everyone. God bless. Have a great night or morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Again, feel free to let me know what countries you're from when you come on my lives. You don't have to, but it'd be nice to know. I'm in the powerful country, as I said, of Canada, everyone. And again, I'll be live tonight, 9 p.m. on Devil's Advocate Show. Hope you come over there, give everyone support on Devil's Advocate Show, particularly Lee there and Robinson, co-producer. And we got great guests. Thanks, everyone. Got to go. Thanks for listening today. And can't wait to read more of your comments, especially starting tomorrow when I'm fresh. Okay, and answering any questions. Thanks, everyone. But I tried my best to read as many comments as I could today and answering questions. Thanks for participating. Now we got 30,000 people on the live. Okay, 30, but I appreciate each and every one of you. And we'll build the numbers as we go. Hopefully. Thanks, everyone. See you. It's Jason. I'm Estes Crime Mate. Please subscribe. Thanks. Bye.